All right, let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about this incredibly powerful and kind of hidden force that can absolutely wreck your portfolio. And look, it's got nothing to do with fundamentals or normal market volatility. This is all about psychology and how the big players can use it as a weapon against you. You know, we're always told to brace for volatility, right? But what if the real threat, the most dangerous force out there, is something completely different? The source material we're diving into today makes a bold claim. There's a much bigger predator lurking in the shadows, and it's called the news vacuum. So here's the big idea. The most sophisticated players in the market, the smart money as they're called, they're not just trading stocks based on value. No, they're trading something way more predictable, our emotions. I mean, that's a pretty chilling thought, isn't it? While you and I are busy analyzing PE ratios and company roadmaps, these institutional predators, they're analyzing our collective fear, our greed, and they're just waiting for that perfect moment to make their move. And that leads us right to the heart of the matter, the news vacuum. So what is it? Well, it's that critical, chaotic window of time between a scary headline hitting the news and the full story, the actual truth coming out. It's in this gap, this vacuum, where fear just completely takes over, and people make really, really costly mistakes. Okay, so to make this feel real, we're going to put on our detective hats. We're going to investigate a very specific event that happened with a company called Recursion Pharmaceuticals, stock ticker RXRX. It's a perfect example of this exact strategy in action. Welcome to the crime scene. The first reports that came out painted this absolutely terrifying picture of a massive institutional sell-off. But that was the myth, right? That was the story that was engineered to create that vacuum of fear we were just talking about. So check this out. Here's exactly how the panic went down. On March 27th, a new regulatory filing drops, and the headline that gets blasted all over the internet is that Vanguard, yeah, that Vanguard, one of the biggest investment giants in the world, now holds 0% of the company. As you can probably guess, the reaction was swift, and it was brutal. And this was the result. The stock price got flushed, hitting its lowest point in an entire year. Total panic set in as everyday investors, believing a huge institution had just completely bailed, scrambled to sell their own shares before it could get any worse. This was the question on everybody's mind. It's the multi-million-dollar question that fueled the whole panic. Did one of the largest asset managers on the planet really just dump almost 40 million shares? I mean, the headlines certainly made it look that way. But this is where our job as forensic investors really starts. We have to look past those scary red candles on the chart. We have to ignore all the noise and go straight to the source. We have to check the plumbing of the market to figure out what was actually going on. And here it is. This is the big aha moment. On the left, you've got the myth that started the fire sale. Vanguard sold everything. And on the right, the forensic truth. Vanguard didn't sell a single share. Not one. The whole thing was just an administrative change, a simple realignment of how they report their holdings. The fancy technical term for this is disaggregation. I know, it sounds super complicated, and honestly, that complexity is exactly what manipulators bank on, but all it really means is that the parent company, Vanguard, stopped filing one single giant report for all of its funds combined. Let's just break down this bureaucratic shuffle real quick. So before, Vanguard filed one massive report that covered everything they owned. But because of an SEC rule change, they switched to a new system. Now, each individual fund, like their huge total stock market index fund, files its own separate report. The source material had this perfect metaphor for it, and it really is the best way to think about it. The shares never left the building. As you can see here, they were just moved from one giant filing cabinet into a bunch of smaller individual folders. Nothing was actually sold. Okay, so now that we've cracked the case and uncovered the truth, what's the verdict? What does this all mean for you? Well, this is where we take this knowledge and turn it into a seriously powerful new advantage for our own investing. This is the absolute critical question. While the public was being scared into selling off their shares, what do you think the institutional players were doing? They weren't selling. Oh no. They were heading to the dark pools, these private stock exchanges where huge trades can be made completely hidden from public view. And what the forensic data from our source showed was just incredible. These private exchanges, the dark pools, they saw record sponge activity. The institutions were literally acting like a giant sponge, just quietly and efficiently soaking up every single share that panicked retail investors were dumping on the market, and they were getting them at the absolute bottom.
So, what do we take away from all this? The lesson here is crystal clear. You have got to learn to look past the scary headline. You have to question the story that everyone else is screaming about. You've got to do your own digging, check the plumbing, because finding the truth, that is your competitive advantage.
I absolutely love this final metaphor from our source. This kind of artificial pushdown of a stock's price, it's like stretching a rubber band. The tighter and tighter it gets pulled by all this manipulation and fear, the more explosive the snapback can be when the truth finally gets out.
And that leaves us with this one last crucial question for you to think about. The next time you see a terrifying headline and a giant red candle on one of your stocks, is your first instinct going to be to join the panic and sell? Or are you going to remember this RXRX ghost sale, take a deep breath, and go check the plumbing? The choice, as always, is yours.